Jefferson back to Ellaby, the quarterback. Here's Moore.
Slovis taking a shot to the end zone. Caught! St. Brown's got it! I don't think I've ever heard an official announce throwing a player's shoe.
You are listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Review. It's the Online Sports Guys College Football Weekend Review podcast featuring us, the Online Sports Guys, talking everything you ever wanted to know about college football and were afraid to ask. With me, as always, OSG Nelson, Jay Wilkerson 16. I am OSG Phil. OSG J-Dub is currently on assignment, and hopefully he'll be joining us again next week when we hit championship week. But guys, the last full week-ish of college football, and there were some really weird things that happened. Probably first and foremost being that crazy-ass Florida LSU game. Have you ever seen a game end like that?
Short of the Ball State game that we had this week and Cal
That's
Stanford.
a whole different level. That's a whole.
But I mean levels of stupidity that create a final the way that we did. I think that this is right up there, Wilkie. I don't think I've seen anything where you had a moment of stupid create the finish that you had.
In the flat, can Cole Taylor get there? No, nowhere near the line to make.
Well, it is 2020.
True.
So I think it's kind of normal.
Yeah, there you go. Point taken.
But it was odd to me that LSU plays their best game of the year
by far,
and Florida has a meltdown.
Yeah.
At the wrong time of year. And what it does, it just really takes a lot of the luster off the SEC championship game with Florida taking that loss.
Yeah, and I'm not sure they really would challenge Alabama, seems to be on a level that's different than everybody else right now.
Yeah.
But the Florida defense was
Arkansas just got in their way.
Yeah, it's like you just go over there.
An exercise, if you will.
Uh-huh.
No, Florida just looked very undisciplined. And again,
yes.
How much did that hurt Kyle Trask's Heisman Trophy candidacy?
A lot.
Quite a bit. So, yeah, again, Florida picked the wrong time to have a meltdown. And, I'm sure the conference, the SEC, is not happy about the matchup they have now because, I think I'm interested to see what the initial line is on Alabama, Florida, but I'm sure it's maybe 3 touchdowns after that performance by Florida. Alabama's just in a league of their own, literally.
Oh, yes. And we don't even have to go into much detail on that game other than to say 52-3.
Thank God.
And I will still argue that Devonta Smith is the best player in college football this season.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that too. Especially after that punt return against Arkansas where he just blew past everyone down the middle of the field. There's no better player in college football right now. It just sucks for him. He's not a quarterback.
Yeah. And which is what the Heisman Trophy in a lot of ways has become, just who's the most popular quarterback. And granted, his quarterback, Mac Jones, had a pretty good game, 24 for 29. But it was almost irrelevant in the whole thing because it was never really a close game. Alabama gets the 10th SEC win of the season, which I guess technically speaking is a conference record, isn't it?
It is a conference record. 10 SEC wins. No one's done it before.
And it may be that nobody else will do it ever again if they go back to that 8-game SEC schedule next year.
Right. Just so you know, and I'm chasing an early line to see if it does in fact exist. The money line is out, courtesy of our friends in the Composite at Odds Portal, and Alabama is a minus 715 against Florida. Florida is almost a plus 500 right now, and I'm chasing the early odds, but that's your money line right now.
What does that mean in English?
That means that you would have to bet $715 on Alabama to get 100 back. Or if you bet 100 on Florida, you'd get 488 if they won.
Okay. Neither of which sound like a particularly good investment, but I guess that's a whole other conversation.
Basically, if you have some spare like aloe flavored juice boxes in the back of your fridge or something that are just kind of sitting there, and you're not going to pop them open and drink them, and your kids aren't going to touch them, then that's what you put on something like Florida in that kind of a game.
And if you ever wanted to know why I don't pick games or play the line when it comes to college football, the fact that I just had to ask John that question should answer everything you need to know.
Okay, so and I did courtesy of our friends at Bet365, Alabama right now is an early 17-point favorite.
I expect that line to move up.
Yes.
Yeah. It's going to be tough for Florida's defense to recover from what happened to them with LSU. They made Brad Johnson, Max. Brad Johnson's son. I got my names mixed up. Made him look like a third-year junior at quarterback, and he's a freshman.
Uh-huh.
Max Johnson had a pretty good game, 21 for 36, 3 touchdowns. Nice numbers. Keyshawn Boutte, 5 catches, 108 yards.
Well, I just got the feeling Florida was just taking this game for granted. They kind of read the press on LSU and figure, okay, this is a done deal. And LSU, to Coach O's credit, got him coached up for this one, and to that entire coaching staff. And that LSU team, that's the best I've seen them all year. And Florida, again, picked the wrong time to have a meltdown.
I got to ask you both an LSU-related question here. During the week, it came out that the Tigers generously offered to bypass playing a bowl game this season as part of a self-imposed ban for their NCAA violations.
How magnanimous of them.
What are your thoughts?
Hey, if you pick the right timing to do something like that.
Yeah, this is the season to do it. Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
hey, we're 4-5 and possibly could end up 4-6, but we'll pass
so
it.
They won't go to Memphis.
Yeah, really?
Or Orlando
I mean, and at least you're not going to have the worst follow-up season for a national champion in the history of follow-up seasons for national champions with that win. But I want to talk about the head football coach at the University of South Georgia Gainesville campus for a minute.
Dan Darth Vader Mullen.
Whatever. You can call him whatever. But I mean, just because, and here's a couple of sequences from Mullen post game, and it was after the Marco Wilson shoe toss, which I guess they're going to try to have as an Olympic event and a demonstration sport in 2028 at this point.
You go with breakdancing?
Yeah. So Marco Wilson
watched Austin Powers the night before.
Yeah. So Marco Wilson, he gets the penalty. Mullen, when he's asked about it post game, courtesy of Jeff Novak. I guess that's a penalty. I have no idea what happened. I didn't see it. Did you guys see it? Reporter. Yeah, he threw a guy's shoe. Mullen. Okay, they called a penalty on it. So you have undisciplined players, much like you at times trying to act like a heel on Monday Night Raw. What? It's a sell job that's not working. But I know that's not going to stop you from doing it. And then he follows it up when he's asked about it.
Cost you the game.
Yes. So, and then he's asked about, then coaches are posturing about this, and this is what he said about the season in and of itself and qualifying for the CFP. And this is from AL.com. I know we played 10 games, so I guess probably the best thing to do would have been to play less games because you seem to get rewarded for not playing this year in college football. No, you get penalized when players throw their shoes, and you deserve your own fate. This is a you problem, Dan Mullen. This is an issue with your program. This is a you problem. The fact that you got 10 games in should be celebrated, because that means that in some manner, way, shape, or form, the protocols that you had for these 1-week auditions worked 10 weeks. That should be celebrated across all of any sport that has however many games you get to play. The fact that this happened is fantastic. The mere fact that other schools that have no issue going in have a game scheduled or have a game canceled by an opponent, that is not their problem. The fact that Michigan, or the team up north, or whatever you want to call them, decided, no, we're not gonna, that's not an indictment on Ohio State. The mere fact that if you were to line up against Ohio State, you would lose is another part and parcel to all of this. So acting like a heel, cutting a promo after a game when you lose doesn't sell. That doesn't work. And I know it's not going to stop him from doing it, but those were two instances post-game in a loss that was created by his own players in discipline. You don't get to say stuff like this and have it stick.
Yeah.
I yield the balance of my time.
Wilkie, there was one other game.
And I know he can come after me because I'm 3-6. I get it, and I'm down the street. Whatever. You had a game that was important. You lost because of your players. Okay, Phil Wilkie, go ahead. Now I'm done.
I yield the balance of my time.
For reals this time?
For reals this time.
Wilkie, the other top 10 SEC team in action this week, the Georgia Bulldogs, they rolled over Missouri 49-14 in a pretty impressive performance there. JT Daniels, 299 and 3 touchdowns. I was a little surprised this game got out of hand so quickly. Were you?
A little bit, yeah, but the defense that we were promised by Georgia showed up with their depth. So obviously getting some games in really helped, and meaningful games in really helped for Georgia. Missouri came out flat, and I didn't expect them to come out flat after that win over Arkansas. But Connor Bazelak, it took him a while to get really warmed up and locked in, but by that time it was too late. So great win by Georgia. They needed it. A lot of people have been down on the Bulldogs this year, and I thought that was a great win for Georgia at Columbia. And I don't think it ruins Mizzou's season. They've played much better than I think people expected. But I was really surprised that they came out flat after that performance against Arkansas.
And we'll move on here as we kind of go through the top 25 teams and their games this week. The one game that surprised me a little bit, and maybe it was a letdown after playing BYU last week, but Coastal Carolina really struggled with Troy. They kind of pulled it out there at the end, but that was a close game. Coastal got the win 42-38, but it took a very late touchdown in order to make the difference.
Trap game. This is the definition of trap game. And, Wilkie, I know that we've had Joe Cashin should be getting frequent flyer miles for hanging out with us on the X every single week. But
at least a T-shirt.
Yeah, at least the T-shirt out of the deal. But I mean, that one, when you're looking at the score, you're sitting there going, okay, they got past BYU. They might be looking at the conference championship game a little bit against Louisiana next week. But yeah, this is one that you kind of sit there and you're like, But once again,
when great teams can handle these type of games like Coastal did, because these games happen on a long season, and you can come on top, especially at Troy. How many Power 5 schools went to Troy, Alabama, and left with their tails between their legs? I can think of Mizzou. I can think of Oklahoma State.
Nebraska was in Lincoln. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Troy beat them in Lincoln. LSU a few years back lost to Troy. So they have a track record, and Troy's record doesn't really indicate, but there's talent there. And Coastal had to Troy, Alabama, which is not fun, I'm sure. But they got the win. They stay undefeated, and it's going to make for a very nice Sun Belt championship game against Louisiana.
Yep.
It should be one of the better games of the weekend. Wilkie, I'll come back to you on this one. The game that surprised me a little bit, not that North Carolina won the game, but it's how they won the game over Miami this weekend. I did not expect them to literally light up the Hurricanes. That was amazing.
Look out, Carter's in the secondary and down the sidelines. It's a foot race. Can they catch him? They cannot.
Michael Carter, 308 yards, couple of touchdowns. Statistically, it was just mind-boggling the amount of yards that North Carolina piled up on Miami in that game. It was never close.
Well, those two running backs are special, and that quarterback is special too. And that is what you want to see out of the North Carolina offense. And it was clicking on all cylinders. Miami's defense had no clue what was going on, who to grab onto, who to tackle. And part of it too was De'Ara King just didn't have he had a game like he had against Clemson. The Carolina defense played much better. De'Ara King had to do it all, and he can't do it all. And I thought North Carolina was able to get in Miami's backfield and really disrupt things offensively for Miami. And it took a toll on the Canes. And, that was not a bad consolation prize before Clemson Notre Dame in the title game. These are two quality ACC teams that, if a few breaks went here or there, they would be competing for a trip to Charlotte. They had their opportunities. But I think we're seeing two programs really on the rise. Miami's got to see if they can keep Rhett Lashley there, because I'm sure he's going to be mentioned for some head coaching jobs that'll as they come open. We'll discuss that a little later. But these are two really up and coming programs in the ACC, and the conference needs Carolina and Miami to be relevant.
Yeah, they need somebody other than Clemson to be relevant. And John, I was actually looking forward to watching this game, and I ended up turning it off after about the first 40 minutes. It just wasn't. North Carolina just boat raced them.
Yeah. So here's the quote from Manny Diaz after the game: "We got our ass kicked." And then he mentions, he goes, humiliating performance, giving credit to North Carolina, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, when your head coach leads off by saying, "We got our ass kicked," and he wasn't afraid to say it, that's the kind of night it was. Second time this year that you've had two running backs run for over 500 yards in a game. And the other one was the tandem of Jarrett Patterson and Kevin Marks Jr. for Buffalo against Kent. They ran for 506. Carter and Williams running for 544 breaks a 13-year record set by Division III Mary Hardin Baylor. So, once again, as a team that's 3-6, the alma mater, looking at what happened to Florida gave me a giggle. Looking at what happened to Miami gave me another giggle. So at least in this one season, although I had to wait until week 9 of my own schedule to sit there and laugh at the teams that wear orange in the state of Florida, I finally got my chance.
Well, staying in the ACC, if you're a Virginia Tech fan, things were corrected because they take home the Commonwealth Cup. They take back the Commonwealth Cup up after a 1 year home in Charlottesville. So they're going to stay. Look, if you're a Tech fan, Virginia Tech fan, you're hoping you're starting a new streak against your in-state rival.
We have some breaking news, gentlemen.
Yes, we do. Go ahead and lay it out.
The AP Top 25 poll is in.
That was not the breaking news that I was going to give you, but you go ahead and say yours. I'll say mine.
Okay, we'll go through really quick. No surprise with the top 4. Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, and Ohio State, as expected. I'm looking through here. Florida drops to number 5. Cincinnati up to number 6. Texas A&M in the 5th spot. Indiana now at number 7.
Okay.
And Iowa State at number 8. And the one that I'm happy to see, Coastal Carolina climbs into the top 10 at number 9.
Nice. All right, so now here's my breaking news. Gus Malzhan, Auburn.
No way.
Wow.
Right there, Brett McMurphy reporting that Gus Malzahn got fired. So it looks like, I guess, Jimmy Rain cut the check.
Wow. I did
on a yellow piece of paper, I'm sure. Yeah. $21.45 million was the buyout just by heading around December 1st.
Yeah, I'm probably the only one of the 3 that's not surprised by that. And John, you know better than I do because you are in the Auburn family by marriage.
I'm an all-in-law, yes.
But it's just become stale. The whole Gus experience right now. I don't think bringing Chad Morris was a good move. They're too much alike. And, 10 years ago, we were talking about the imaginative high school offenses coming into college football and making the splash. And they did. But that's old and stale now. Defenses have figured them out. And yeah, it's kind of run its course. And power football still wins games.
Mm-hmm.
You can finesse all you want, but sometimes you've got to gain a few inches rather than a few yards. And those offenses are just not designed to do that. And, J-Dub and I talked quite a bit about why quarterbacks are in the shotgun where they're inside the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
When it's man on man and hat on hat and, may the best man win. So the 3 of us, I'm really not really surprised by that move. And, I'm interested to see, okay, is Hugh Freeze going to get a call?
Oh,
is Chatwell going to get a call?
I was going to say the Hugh Freeze watch should start as of right now.
That'll go over about as well as the whole Art Briles discussion a couple of years ago. I will guarantee you that. I would say Chadwell would probably be at the top of the list.
Will Barry Odom or Kendall Briles get a call? I mean, and is that job attractive enough for an up-and-coming coach or even a retread?
Right now, it's an 8-4 job going into the bowl season. Every single year, you look at what happened this season. They were 6-4. You take the other 2 games that are your standard homecoming game and your other games that are a part of your shtick. You're an 8-4 team. You're an 8-4 team every year going into bowl season. You will be second, if not third, in your division. You will always be running your head up against Alabama. And so that to me is what kind of an individual wants that right now and thinks that they can either match or improve that, because this is a tough place for anyone that wants to go and take the Auburn job just because of where you are in your division, in your conference. You're shoehorned into a place.
Any coach with a pulse.
I guarantee you, somebody in Auburn or associated with Auburn or is a beat writer, I don't know. They're going to mention the name Urban Meyer.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure that will go down. That is completely and totally illogical and nowhere
Why
close.
Why were you so quick to say that they're going to shoot down Hugh Freeze?
Just because
it's the most logical fit.
No, it's a terrible fit. Because what did I say? High school coaches with imaginative offenses, and that's what Hugh Freeze was. Now, he's been the most successful of that group. But I just think it's a terrible fit going down to Auburn for Hugh Freeze. I may be wrong, but I think he's happy at Liberty right now.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to be in that mess.
No.
Because you've got a donor base that feels like they're every bit a part of that program and willing to write those checks. They feel like, they can dictate the terms. And that goes way back to Terry Bowden, probably before that. So I don't think he wants any part of that mess, and I just think it'll be a bad fit.
Well, and I'm looking at the off the field stuff from Ole Miss and all of that other stuff. And that's why I said that when Art Briles was mentioned as an assistant coach, when those conversations were happening, I was getting, I was hearing it from a lot of folks who were Auburn, either alums or football fans, that they literally would stop going to games and stop donating dollars if Art Briles was a part of any hiring on that campus. And I think that the same thing could happen with Hugh Freeze.
But that doesn't seem to have been something that's been an issue for them in the past. They're willing to hire whomever if they think it's the right person. This is the same school that flew Bobby Petrino in the middle of the night while Tommy Tuberville was the head coach.
Well,
by the way, Petrino available, I'm sure.
Yeah, no question. But no, the atmosphere has changed in the landscape has changed in the last handful of years. I don't see, and to Wilkie's point, I think that Hugh Freeze is happy at Liberty because with Ian McCaw as the athletic director, Hugh Freeze can pretty much do whatever he wants to bring in the talent pool that he wants. He's got his own set of rules, and Ian McCaw will let him do it. When you leave a Liberty and you come and you take on that Power 5 set of shoulder pads, it's an entirely different set of rules, expectations, and folks who are looking at you under the magnifying glass every single day. Do you want that kind of a headache, and do you want that kind of lack of maneuverability within your program to sit there and recruit who you want? You bring in the kid who may not have the GPA, but he's a hell of a football player. All of those different little things, he can do that at Liberty, and they're not really checking out. And so I mean,
that math would take Chadwell out of the picture too.
Chadwell is probably one of the hot commodities out there. They're going to have to give him a look.
Yeah.
And just even the style of play is very attractive to. I would think, John, you can speak more to this than I can, but an Auburn fan or donor would probably be more attractive to Chadwell's style of play than Hugh Freeze's.
Yeah.
Simply because he likes big running backs and he likes the physicality in the lines.
I mean, think about the glory years. When we look at Auburn football, let's take the Cam Newton, Trey Mason, Michael Dyer, take all of that stuff out of the loop for a little bit. Go back to the history of Auburn football. It's Ronnie and Cadillac. It's Bo.
It's Tommy Agee.
Yeah, and so I think that's what they're going to be looking for, is that the fan base and the alums want to go back to that kind of football. You want to have talented wide receivers. You want to have a quarterback who is in rhythm with those folks. You want to have that running game that you've got with Tank Bigsby right now and with Sean Shivers. And you want to add to that. And I think that, and the other idea of this, I just thought of this. National Signing Day is Wednesday. How does this affect? How does this affect the National Signing Day for Auburn on Wednesday? That to me is another question.
Boy, there's some people at Auburn on the phone right now.
Hey, don't leave. All right, I'm going to look up, and this is the beautiful part of live radio, I know. Auburn National Signing Day 2020. So, let's see. National Signing Day 2021. Let's see. All right, so.
I think we started the coaching carousel a little early there, Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think so.
We're looking at, all right, so committed. 4-star running back out of Trussville, Armani Goodwin. Offensive lineman out of Houston, Texas. 4-star safety. Only quarterback in the class is a 4-star from Texas. A 4-star D tackle out of Milton, Florida. Another offensive tackle, top 30 in the country. So there's a lot of beef that's getting picked up right now in the early signing period by the looks of things. Maybe there's some room to negotiate and get some kids to flip, but how much of these folks get lost on Wednesday? That to me is the big thing.
Yeah. Or are they going to just hold off until signing day in February?
Yeah.
Indeed. And we were going to talk about the carousel later in the show, but since we're on the subject.
Enter the carousel. This is the time of renewal.
Yeah.
Quite a few changes in the college football ranks already. Kevin Sumlin fired at Arizona
Should have been.
after losing 70-7 against arch rival Arizona State. Interesting job. I've seen already Steve Sarkisian's name linked to it. And Sarkisian may be an interesting candidate for several different jobs, particularly with his offensive background.
Maybe Auburn. That'd be interesting. No, I think if this is probably the most attractive job, in my opinion, in the Pac-12 because of the fan base. Having lived out there for 3 years, Arizona's fan base is the most SEC-like in the Pac-12. They are passionate in Wildcat land, so they're going to take their time on this hire. I like Sarkisian. I think he's a West Coast guy. He's an offense guy. I think he would be the guy I would chase. But it's really what's important is the list that the AD has right now.
Mm-hmm. The other job that came open this weekend, Illinois, went as early Sunday. Lovie Smith was let go by the Illini, leaving a big opening there in the Big Ten. Any number of people could be interested in that job and would be good fits there. Illinois, a program that's struggled for decades to be relevant in college football.
And quite honestly with you guys, I never have understood why Illinois doesn't win consistently.
No.
You go back to the Lou Tepper days when he had Jeff George and those great players, and I thought they had turned the corner to that. But it just hasn't been the case. I thought Ron Zook did a good job there. He brought in some really good talent, but just he kind of petered out. But I never have understood with Chicago up the road and some really good high school football, especially in East St. Louis and across the Mississippi into St. Louis, why they haven't been able to tap some of those reservoirs and have a consistent winner.
And other change this week, Utah State parting ways with Gary Anderson.
Yeah, Gary Anderson and Blake Anderson going from Ark State over, and now Ark State's got a new head coach.
Yeah, Butch Jones. Now, I don't blame Blake Anderson for making this move. We all know his story. Yeah. His wife passed away from breast cancer. It was traumatic, not only for him, but for the team as well. But if anybody needed a change of scenery, it was him. I totally get it. Butch Jones, he's much maligned. This has been a maligned hire now already. But he did go through the Nick Saban rehabilitation program, and it's seemed to have worked in the past. But now with the news of Gus Malzhan being fired, there's going to be some people back in my home state that are going to wonder, well, we should have waited. We could have gotten Gus back because he was very popular in Jonesboro his 1 year there, and he still loved in the natural state.
It's an interesting hire. Jones got a bad reputation at Tennessee for a number of reasons, but previous to that, had some successful stints at Central Michigan and at Cincinnati. Yeah, so he does have a track record with mid-majors.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're going to go to a mid or a group of 5 team, that's the one because they've been somewhat of a consistent winner in the past 10 years. Gone to bowl games. They've made a name for themselves in the Sun Belt. So, yeah, this is a good move for Butch Jones. I just think it's interesting that 15 minutes ago we found out about Gus Malzahn, and I'm sure there's some people back in Jonesboro going, yeah, we could have got him back.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
One last thing to mention on the carousel before we hit the break here, guys. And that's the vote of confidence that Tom Herman got from his athletic director saying he will be the head coach for the Texas Longhorns in 2021.
Translation, the buyout is too big for us right now.
We couldn't get the oil money. There you go. There, 1 + 1 = Tom Herman.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. He's got to have a new quarterback next year.
Yeah.
He's already running uphill for 2021. I'm not sure what the recruiting class he's got. Texas always has a top 25 class. So he's already got a lot on his plate without the vote of confidence. And with the vote of confidence, well, we know what he has to do. He has to win the Big 12. He has to beat Oklahoma.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck, and may the force be with him.
Uh-huh.
Guys, that should put a wrap here on the first half of the show. When we come back in the second half of the show, we'll go through a few more games, and I want to talk to you guys about the upcoming championship weekend and bowl season, because we're just about there, believe it or not, as 2020, the 427,000 days of the year 2020 come to a very slow close, kind of like my tease for the break. With that being said, we have hit halftime when we will be back in roughly about a minute and 30 seconds. So stay tuned, everybody.
The OSG app is up and running on your Android or iPhone. Install the OSG app and listen to our podcasts from college football, soccer, and lacrosse. What are you waiting for? Download the OSG app today.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Now she can be the first to make an extra point at the Power 5 level. Right through there.
Thanks for sticking around, folks. You have made it to the second half of the review. It's the Online Sports Guys College Football Weekend Review podcast, where we talk about everything college football. We are the Online Sports Guys, and in the first half, we had a lot of breaking news and some game recaps and some coaching carousel stuff.
Mackenzie Milton's apparently transferring to Florida State as well. So,
oh, interesting. Instant reaction from the Florida State alumnus here.
I want to know how healthy he is first and foremost. I know. Look, I
just
have
a push alert too on him.
Zero expectations on it, considering the injury that he's coming off of at Central Florida. You've got the quarterbacks that are currently in-house. I think it just increases the level of competition. I know that having someone who's a senior leader would help in this regard. But, for me, it's Missouri. Show me.
I think he's going to thrive in Mike Norvell's offense. I think he's central casting for that offense. We saw Alex Smith with the football team able to come back from devastating injury like Mackenzie Milton had. And he's had some time to rehab. The only thing I'm concerned about is, again, is he fully healthy? How rusty is he? Will there be a spring practice for him to be able to get acclimated and shake off the rust? But I think he's central casting for that offense at Florida State.
It's certainly, there's nothing to lose for either party here by doing this. Milton wasn't going to get playing time at UCF in front of Dylan Gabriel at this point, who's established himself as a top flight college quarterback. For Florida State, why not? If you get a healthy Mackenzie Milton who can play, like Wilkie said, he's a great potential fit for that offense. And Florida State really doesn't have anybody that jumps off the page and says, oh my God, he's a star quarterback right now. So
that's because, they're all young and, it's just when you get, freshmen, redshirt freshmen and sophomores, and then you can bring in someone like a Mackenzie Milton to help things out as a either as a senior or as a grad transfer. I don't know what he's going to end up being when he goes to Florida State, but you need that kind of senior leadership. Like I said, biggest thing for me, if McKenzie Milton's a part of the discussion, is how healthy is he?
Well, one of the Power 5 conferences that we haven't talked about yet on the show is the Big Ten, and that's because there really aren't a whole lot of headlines out of there other than the controversy around Ohio State. And I want to hear what both you guys, your takes are about the conference waiving their rule to allow Ohio State to play in the championship game after 5 games. Much ado about nothing, or is it there's something to this?
You made the when you decided to come back, you made the statement that 6 wins is what it's going to take, or 6 games. 6 games is the minimum to get into your title game, and you didn't adhere to it because your gold standard program, your playoff team, consistent playoff team didn't make it, and you changed the rules at the end. I thought Indiana's statement when this was mentioned was as classy as you can be, but you can just read between the lines and hear the tinge of disappointment and disillusionment about it. Exactly. I hated the decision. I mean, you made the statement that you have to play 6 games to qualify, and there's no such qualification for the college football playoff as I haven't seen anything that says that. So my take is they'd probably still get in if they didn't play. But understand that your Big Ten title game is a moneymaker for the conference, and Indiana will bring people, but they just won't stay in Indianapolis. Ohio State will bring a ton of people, and they'll stay in the hotels and eat at the restaurants if they're open. I think you should have stuck to your guns. I think it's a bad precedent, and it leaves really a bad taste in my mouth with the Big Ten.
I mean, no doubt. I mean, what you're trying to do is you're trying to protect your number one, and you're going to change your rules to protect your number one. I mean, I get it, especially when if you have a team that you feel can be a part of the CFP and can compete for a national championship. And looking at it specifically from an Ohio State versus an Indiana standpoint in the CFP prism, yes, I know that Indiana played the number of games and qualify under the old set of rules. But the conference is looking at it from the sheer perspective of eyeballs and competitiveness against the other 3 teams in the CFP. Which team would have the better chance to represent our conference in the CFP and have a shot at a national championship? And that would be Ohio State. As much as I would love to see Indiana get a shot, it would be Ohio State from the corporate perspective. What is best for business? What's best for business for Big Ten is to change our rules so we can guarantee that Ohio State gets in and represents us as one of the Final 4.
Yeah, Ohio State would have gotten in if they didn't play in the title game. To me, it's a irrelevant point. It's just that the Big Ten's got to make a boatload of money off their title game because there's not going to be, 20% capacity for the game. So they got to squeeze every dollar they can. So I think that's why. And of course, the network that's airing it has to get those eyeballs.
That is correct.
So those are 2 big reasons why they changed the rules, and I don't like it. I think it's a terrible precedent. And if Ohio State goes on to win the national title, you almost think you got to put an asterisk next to it.
Well, here's a hypothetical for you that I'm going to throw out there as well. And that's a team out of the Pac-12 who's also undefeated with the same record. And by the way, if you didn't get a chance to see it, USC made an incredibly crazy comeback to win over UCLA in their rivalry game, 43-38 on Saturday night.
One of the best rivalries in college football.
And one of the better games, easily one of the best games of the week, and arguably one of the better games of the season. But USC has one more game left against a not quite that great Washington squad this coming up week. They're going to end up being 6-0 as well. Do they have an argument in this?
Where are they in the AP poll?
Oh, they're not anywhere near as highly ranked, but that's
There you go.
Is that branding, or is that just the lack of people on the East Coast seeing them?
That is branding, and the fact that the Pac-12 is just completely irrelevant right now.
Yep.
The American has more cachet than the Pac-12
The
right
Sun
now.
Belt does with Coastal Carolina.
Right now, you're right. Sun Belt with Coastal and with Louisiana. I mean, that's going to get more eyeballs than USC Washington.
But let me ask you this then. Are they really that much worse than the Big Ten? You don't really have a whole lot of Big Ten teams outside of Ohio State that say, oh my God, this is a must-watch team every week either. Indiana, while they've had a great season for them, still looks like the prototypical slow defensive Big Ten team. And the same for Northwestern. Neither one of them are going to be able to score a whole lot of points. It's
not the Northwestern of 95, that's for sure.
No.
Penn State, Michigan, Nebraska had horrible years.
Mm-hmm.
That's what killed the Big Ten.
Wisconsin did too.
Wisconsin as well. So
they were ranked for like 2 weeks, and then they just fell off the face of the planet.
Well, they had like 2 games canceled because of COVID. But yeah, your programs that have a brand, the brand was tarnished this year.
Yeah.
And it really hurt the Big Ten. Who has a brand other than Southern Cal out west and maybe Oregon? And really out there, it's nobody cares. And that has been what's killed the Pac-12 this year. Nobody cares for their programs right now.
Nope.
And they're not getting any kind of coverage at home.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, as much as USC is a brand name. We all grew up with guys like Charles White and Ricky Bell and those great players that played at Southern Cal, and they always were in the Rose Bowl and all the way 1 or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
It's not your father's USC anymore.
No.
And that's sad. And I hesitate to say they should trade with American to be in the Power 5, but that's where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really the people out west that has done this to them. So it's really sad.
Well, I mean, for me, it all goes back to something that I've argued a couple times on the onlinesportsguys.com website.
Nicely done.
Thank you. College football is a popularity contest in a lot of ways.
No doubt.
And it's not always the best teams that play in the college football playoff, even though they might be the 4 highest ranked teams or the 4 most popular teams. They're not always the best 4 teams, and that's a problem.
Well, you have entities that are dictating the terms.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like bowl season.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's why.
This is a whole separate conversation, and I won't get too deeply into it. But I would sit here and argue that it's at some point we're going to have to overhaul this whole system because it's all totally subjective and it's not settled on the field.
Okay. Yeah, you don't want to get too deep. I'll say this. What were the things that when they decided to do this playoff, what were some of the objections about it? There were 2 things. Conference championships have to matter and the regular season has to matter. Mm-hmm. And I think this year we're seeing that regular season doesn't mean that much. And your conference championship, it's a nice trophy to have, but it ain't going to guarantee you a trip to the playoff. And those 2 things, if that was the reason for your objections, well, they need to be addressed, especially the conference championship, because then are we just setting things up to eliminate conferences altogether in college football on the Power 5 level and just have a free-for-all games and regions or however you want to do it? I don't know. There's got to be some value to the conference championship, even in the NCAA tournament. If you win your conference tournament, or if you don't have a tournament, your conference championship, you get an automatic bid. And you could be a 3-win team, but you have a hot streak and you win the tournament, your conference tournament, and you're in. So I think a conference championship has got to have some kind of leverage into the playoff. And I don't know what you can do right now to make the regular season relevant.
Any thoughts, John?
It is a popularity contest, and I appreciate the notion of wanting to overhaul the system, but when you have at least 10 numbers to the left of the decimal place dictating what's going to happen, unless someone else comes in with an entirely different set of 10 numbers to the left of the decimal place, and we're seeing everything with the announcement this week of the SEC moving to the 4-letter and to ABC for starting in 2024. We knew it was going to happen, but now that we know the dynamic where the 4-letter and ABC are paying 6 times to the dollar what CBS is paying for the SEC package, until something like that happens and you have a market correction of ungodly proportions, where you have another contender come in and sit there and say that they want to drop that kind of money. This is the system we have. It is television programming on multiple networks and multiple platforms. And that's why we have the bowl system right now, the bowl games right now, because we don't have a bowl system short of the New Year's Six and the CFP. Yeah. The bowl games right now are television programming and advertisements for the individuals that are attached to those games. And until another entity decides that they want to take over 2/3, if not 3/4 of the current bowls and create them as television programming and get back to where they were when we were kids, this is the system we have right now. And it's what is best for business. And what's best for business from a network perspective is having all of the Tiffany companies and the S&P 500s and the Dow Jones folks, the Dow Jones 30, will be a part of this. And I mean that in a college football sense. You're going to have the blue bloods that will be attached to it. It's always going to be the Power Fives. It's always going to be the SEC, possibly 2 teams from the SEC, heavyweights from the Big Ten. The Pac-12 is going to be sitting there with its miscongeniality, trying to figure out something out on the West Coast. It's just how it's going to be.
I know that's a perfect segue for something else you want to talk about, Phil, but let me add this about the new deal with the SEC and the 4-letter with ESPN. I hate the fact that all their media eggs is in one basket beginning in 2024. I like the variety that CBS brought, but CBS made a terrible decision not to extend and add a few more dollars, and it's cost them. And then the point about market correction, I think we're in the beginning stages of that, because the ratings television ratings have not been good for college football. They're down 30%. A lot of it has to do with the games are just not competitive and they're not fun to watch because there's no atmosphere in the stadiums. And yeah, I think people are kind of figuring out there's other things to do until you can start tailgating again at the stadiums, until there's atmosphere again. And even then, I think people have discovered, you know what? It's kind of cool to take a drive and look at the fall leaves than being in a traffic jam in some collegiate hamlet somewhere. I think we're going to see some of that in the next 10 years. So I believe the market corrections probably started. I just don't think the powers that be realize it yet.
I'm going to try and figure out a way to segue out of this really quickly here. A couple of things I wanted to hit on before we wrap up the episode. Did you get a chance to see the finish of the Ball State Western Michigan game?
Yeah, I know that it had Cal Stanford all over it, but the fact that the team came out on the field, and rendered it neutral. It was like, it was great. It was with 11 laterals or something like that to get the score.
Like 14 of them.
Yes. Well, I mean, just you had a dozen-ish laterals. I mean, it was a fantastic play, but I just wish it would have stuck.
You get to see that at all, Wilkie?
I saw it. It was crazy. But Cal Stanford takes the cake.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing can top that.
Pales in comparison to that. Nothing could ever possibly top that one with the band running on the field and getting plowed over. Partially, for no other reason, because the forward lateral call rendered the whole exercise pointless anyway. Despite the touchdown. And the last thing I want to hit on, we finally got to see Vanderbilt's Sarah Fuller kick an extra point in a game.
2.
Not once, but twice.
Loved every minute of it. Absolutely loved every minute of it.
It was interesting, though. I saw some Twitter reactions like, well, she didn't kick off or anything else. Why does she get to kick the extra point?
Stop it.
And that's my point. It's kind of gimmicky to me. I mean,
Why not?
Well, you had a field goal kicker there that was kicking field goals.
The punter kicked the field goals. Yeah.
So again, it just felt way too gimmicky for me. I would like to have seen her at least attempt a field goal, because then I think you brought some authenticity to it. But again, she is a elite level goalkeeper, and yeah, I hate to see that taken away from her to be used the way she has been. Great. She becomes the first woman to have points on a football game, and that's wonderful. But I would love to have seen her kick a field goal, or at least have a kickoff that reached the end zone.
What does it hurt at this point? Vanderbilt's season's essentially long been over. They lost the game. It was never really close. Why not give her an opportunity to get out in the field and do something?
No, I'd love to see it, but once again, that comes down to the choice of the coaching staff and what they want her to do. I mean, yeah, I know that you had the punter kicking the field goals. Would have liked to have seen her do other things, but still, I think that it's still a very cool moment for anybody who's attached to college football.
Yeah, and I don't see a downside to it at all. I guess with that being said, unless you guys got anything else, we can kind of wrap the episode up.
John Talty has 3 early names to watch for the coaching search at Auburn: Billy Napier, Hugh Freeze, Mario Cristobal.
Right. I think we said that.
So, we said it off air. We didn't say it on air.
Oh, okay.
So now we're saying it on air. There you go. There's your early names. I don't think we talked about Hugh Freeze, Billy Napier, Wilkie. You had the point about Billy Napier, and Cristobal would be interesting because he tried to do SEC out west, and you'd be bringing him back here. Although I'm sure that you would also have the section of the fan base for Auburn sit there and say, well, he coached at Alabama. So you'll have that in play too.
And of course, with championship weekend coming up, Iowa State will play for its first conference championship since 1912, when they play Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. So a 108-year drought could go away for the Cyclones.
And the other championship games we talked earlier about, Florida and Alabama, Ohio State and Northwestern in the Big 10, and Washington and USC in the Pac-12. The Sun Belt game, Louisiana Lafayette versus Coastal Carolina. And I'm missing one here. Which one am I missing?
Clemson, Notre Dame, ACC.
Yes, Clemson, Notre Dame in the ACC. And as my computer slowly shifts over, Tulsa and Cincinnati.
Oh, there you go.
In the AC.
Yes.
That should actually be an interesting game, assuming Tulsa is able to play it. It's going to be played at Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati. The Bearcats, they win. They're definitely a pick-6 team, no question about that. I might actually tune into that one if I get an opportunity. I'm interested to see how they play.
Yeah, Coastal right now is a -196 favorite going up against Louisiana. LSU's a favorite against Ole Miss. Army and Air Force are pretty much an even Steven, chasing after Commander-in-Chief. Clemson, a big favorite against Notre Dame right now. In Alabama, we talked about them at the show starting. Cincinnati's pretty much the same way at a -715.
Okay. with all that
Well,
being
the ACC and the Sun Belt are only two I'm really interested in.
Yep.
To be honest with you.
Right on.
two best games on the board by far. Guys, let's wrap it up for another week here on the review. Don't forget, you can find us on social media at OSG Sports on both Facebook and Twitter. You can find our YouTube channel if you're not watching and just listening. You can watch us as well. Go to our YouTube channel. It's at OSG Sports. Download the phone app. It's free. Look up again, OSG Sports, Google Play Store, Apple Store. We're there. Easy to find, easy to download. Get all of our programming on your phone to listen to in your car while you're walking around outside the neighborhood or exercising or whatever you do to pass the time. For the Online Sports Guys, I am OSG Phil, he is OSG Nelson, and he is Jay Wilkerson 16. We are the Online Sports Guys. We will talk to everybody again about this time next week. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Review. You can find this and past shows by downloading the OSG Sports app on your mobile device. And enjoy all of our shows from the OSG Sports Podcasting Network. The OSG Sports app is up and running. Download it today.